Well, Jim, before we go too much further with the show here this week, I know there is some WWE news that has been happening this week, and one of the stories is one that I only know about because people tagged me in it when they tweeted it to you a few thousand times.
Just a couple of thousand.
This female writer for WWE.
Well, and let's not be sexist at the start. Let's save that for later.
I apologize. You're right, though.
Doesn't even need to be, because these words that come out of her mouth would have been just as stupid if they'd come out of a man's mouth or a horse's mouth or anybody else's mouth. How many times have I said in a derisive and derogatory fashion, Brian, over the course of the years, these fucking comedy writers. No wonder wrestling all looks phony and stupid and the fans don't like it anymore. Because all they do is hire comedy writers that have writing credentials and graduated from major universities and wouldn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch or a wrestling fan if it bit them on the fucking nose. That's the problem. That's been the problem ever since that outsiders were allowed in our industry to write the scripts that never before existed. What do? They give me a laboratory case here. They give me a test case for this. They notarized my entire opinion, both of the hiring practices and the people that they hire in one fell swoop and put it out on the news for everybody to hear. I have been validated again in my own completely irrelevant fashion, where I'm turned out never to be right, ever, except all the times that I'm right. I've been validated again. They hired a comedy writer and then fired her a day later because she admitted to the world that she not only didn't have a fucking clue about anything related to professional wrestling, but she didn't even know who the goddamn champion was of the show that she was fixing to start the writing team for. So for the folks who have not been following this closely, this was I say writer, the new, I'm going to take this off of, as a matter of fact, itrwrestling.com. We'll give them some love. Because we usually talk about PW Insider, and they're very reliable also, but this was the piece that I found, and it has the quotes. From itrwrestling.com, new WWE Monday Night Raw writer Kenise Mobley has said that she wasn't required to know anything about pro wrestling before being hired for her role writing for WWE's flagship show. Mobley is a stand-up comedian with credits on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and Chris Gethard Presents. Remember Chris Gethard? He was that lousy, rotten television personality, in air quotes, that hosted that lousy, rotten After Dark show on Vice.
That's right.
It wasn't a dark side thing. They had our friends Evan and Jason had nothing to do with it. Not the show nor the choice of host, but it was rotten. But Chris Gethard Presents, that's another credit she has to her name. But then she revealed that she had been hired to be a writer for the WWE on a podcast called Asian Not Asian. I don't know what the gimmick is, so I will not comment further on the name. But her quote was, "Yes, I have just been hired by WWE. Given the things that you know about me and my entire life and what I'm into, yes, that's surprising. Yes, also a surprise for me. They did not require me to know anything about wrestling, but I do have a background in film production and comedy writing, and they're like, perfect, come on in." So she continued on. So I'm on the Monday Night Raw team. So there's Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, and the people I know that are on it are Bobby. His name is either Bobby Ashley or Bobby Lashley, and I really should know that. He's like this giant black guy, and he and the people who are part of his crew, I know that they call, or at least as of last year, they called themselves the Hurt Business. The Hurt Business. They wear suits, and they're like, we're cool.
Oh, my God. I'd seen this story going around. I hadn't actually read it or read the quote. That's the first time I've heard it.
There's more, but comments so far.
I mean, I I'm going to look at it from the point of view of being one of the talent. Can you imagine having to have a conversation with this person about what you're doing? Nothing against this person as a person, but if you're a wrestler on this show and this is the person writing for you, how does that work? If they don't even know what you've done, who you are, why you are, who you are,
or what you're doing, or what you're supposed to be doing. It's, I'm sorry, but it's ridiculous in any endeavor for the largest company in the world to hire someone who has absolutely no knowledge. Can you have Boeing airplanes? Let's hire Jim Cornette, who not only has little knowledge whatsoever of how to fucking fly a plane or why a plane flies, but desperately wants to stay away from it. Because there's another quote here. I went on a date and this guy was like, don't you feel like he effectively said, don't you feel like you're diminishing your dignity writing for WWE? And I was like,
the answer is yes.
Well, I was like, I'm getting paid to do the thing that I've been working on for 8 years, and this is twice or 3 times what I make at my nonprofit job, so yeah, I'm going to take it. She's a comedian with a nonprofit job. She's doing the comedy thing on the side and writing thing on the side, and now she's getting paid to do the thing that she's been working on for 8 years, which is writing and comedy, but certainly not wrestling.
You see, there are 2 issues here at play. One is this is a general indictment of the WWE hiring practices and hiring process and who they hire and why they have writers at this point. And the other thing is, it says a lot about her that she thought it would be okay to say all these things in a public forum. That's nuts.
Yes, I mean, and it's an indictment of the hiring practices because they hire not only people that don't know anything about the product, but hire stupid people like this that say stupid things. She's not talking like she's fucking Ernest Hemingway, regardless. Oh, yeah, they wear suits and they're like, we're cool. Fuck anybody sitting on the fucking front row, anybody sitting in the bleachers of a wrestling event anywhere in the world, WWE or otherwise, would probably be able to come closer to coming up with something that a wrestler would want to do than this fucking girl. And she does it. She just is oblivious and proud of the fact she's oblivious because she's got another credit. I now have a credit on my roster, on my resume that I once wrote. Well, actually, no, she was once hired. But the punchline of this thing is after this hit the internet, Thursday, she got fired on Friday. I'm surprised it took that long, but I guess they keep business hours up there these days since they're a publicly traded company. Because if Vince had heard about this back in the old days, he'd have been on the phone with her 2:00 in the morning. Because you're a fucking idiot is what you are. Number one, I don't have any use for people who apply to get jobs that they do not know how to do, because that's just fucking stupid. And then you're fucking the people that are paying you, and you're fucking the people that depend on the product that you're supposed to be working on, because you don't know what you're doing. And if you're so fucking stupid that you don't know what you're doing about anything in the world to get a job, I suggest maybe learn to do something. But anyway, backing up. Not only are you stupid if you apply to do something you don't know how to do, but if you do get a job, and as she said, a job that pays 2 or 3 times what she makes at her other job, don't immediately go on a national broadcast of some description and tell people that you have no fucking idea what you're doing. She couldn't figure out she was being disrespectful to the talent. She couldn't figure out she was being disrespectful to the company. She couldn't figure out that she was getting heat on herself, even if she didn't care about being disrespectful, because she's a comedian that we've never heard of and so far has said nothing funny, just stupid. What the fuck? This is why that wrestling's in the shape that it's in, because people outside of wrestling that don't know anything about it, don't respect it, don't like it, and are just looking for a resume credit, are just welcomed in with open arms. Come on in. Well, she turned around and she went on out. As I said one time before, They gave her an inch, she took a mile, and now she got a foot out the door. But that's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. How could she not know that the fans would crucify her? Is she not a fan of
anything? She thinks it's just a show. She probably doesn't see it that way. She probably sees it as like an improv comedy show or like just some show on stage where the fans are there. If you're an outsider to wrestling and you've grown up over the last 20 years, you have no idea what wrestling is. It's just that show on TV your brother used to watch.
Sometimes these are the kind of people that I would love to just have an hour in a room with. I wouldn't want the job. I wouldn't want to do anything afterwards. I just want to spend an hour in a room with some fucking goof like this. And just see how crazy I could make them by demeaning them as much as possible with all the things that they did not know and why they were not qualified to be breathing our fucking air.
The other thing is, how many of these kind of writers, people with this mindset towards wrestling, have they hired throughout the years? This is just one who talked.
Many.
Yeah.
Many. As a matter of fact, you know what? Somebody, God damn it, retweeted something with the Young Rock. I guess that's when it was, when the Young Rock was on, because, Dwayne Johnson is, I guess, still works with the writer that Heyman got in a screaming fight with.
Oh, Brian Gewirtz.
Brian Gewirtz, the comedy writer. And his big thing was comedy. And he and Heyman, I guess, got in a well-regarded screaming fight where the people in the office wished it had got physical, because that would have been a goddamn sight to see. But I would have had my money on Paul in that one, because I've seen this other clown. But even though The Rock likes him, he's one of the fucking guys that always used to do comedy bullshit. And someone had retweeted something that The Rock had said he'd mentioned to him or whatever. And on his Twitter bio, Gewirtz's, it said dabbled in the wrestling sector. They've hired 1 million of these fucking writers that don't give a shit and wanted to turn it into a comedy show, which they've done successfully. And then once the WWE started hiring writers that turned it into a comedy show, then all the other outlaw promotions and independents started copying what the big boys were doing, and they turned their shit into a comedy show, and now we got a comedy show. And that's basically where it started. So I have no respect for any of these people, and I have no respect. If you get in the fucking wrestling business, you don't intend to be in it for the rest of your life. If you have anything to do about it, then fuck you. I'm tired of all this I'll get in wrestling for a little while and be a TV star and go make movies. Or Sable. Or these fucking comedy writers. Fuck you. That's why people used to get their legs broken. Is so this didn't happen back then. Another way that the wrestling business has regressed since the days where it was protected. Now it's like, anybody, come on in, we'll tell you everything. Before it was like, Hulk Hogan, you want to be a wrestler? Here, snap. Here goes your ankle. Come back. We'll know you're serious. I liked it better the other way.